So welcome, folks. Looks like there's some technical issues there. So who works with anything live nowadays? It's always a bit of a challenge. So I'm going to start again, and my apologies. What you can't see off camera is my comms team having a bit of a meltdown at the moment. So thank you, Sam, for your help. So welcome to our second town hall event, and really want to appreciate everyone that's engaged and both in coming today and asking questions. So big thank you to you. This evening I'm with Mark Coupland, Exec Director of Customer, and Nicola Ebdon, who's our Exec Director of Governance and Regulation and looks after our customer insight elements. So kind of quick agenda really we're going through today. So we've got a short presentation introducing our Neighbourhood Action Plan. So Mark will be taking us through that and sharing the customer culture assessment feedback was recently carried out. Nicola will take us through, and then we'll move on to your Q&As. We'll be sharing some details, as I say, around those elements and the feedback. But finally, when we get onto the Q&As, I guess a key question is how do we manage to get through all of those questions? First and foremost, we'll make sure that every customer gets a response from us to their question by the end of next week. They'll be contacted with that. In terms of repairs and maintenance themes, we had a big focus on those in our last session. And so what we've decided to do is to take all the questions that have been submitted as part of this around that specific area. We will be including those in our next focus on repairs and assets in our virtual town hall, which will be around September time. So we'll get those through to you. So today's focus will be very much around customers, neighbourhoods and communications. So I guess handing over now, Mark, can you take us through the Neighbourhood Action Plans, please?
Absolutely, Kevin. Good evening, everyone. The Neighbourhood Action Plans, what are they? There are clear local plans showing how we're going to improve your neighbourhoods. They're going to be driven by your own insights and experience, along with colleagues across LHP and our partners, just to give us the insight in terms of how we really make that difference in the neighbourhoods that we work in and you live in. So what they're going to look like, they're the local blueprint really to improvement. So we're going to focus on key local issues, identify priorities jointly and collaboratively with customers who live in those neighbourhoods and communities. We're going to dedicate direct action and make concrete steps to improve in those areas. And this will be measured by yourselves and formed by yourselves to ensure that you hold us accountable. And that's the third point. It's about accountability. It's making sure that we do what we say and when we're going to do it, and making sure that if we're not able to do it in that timescale, that we keep customers informed, so through the local neighbourhood action plans exactly what's happening, when and where. We also want to start over the coming months introducing our new place standard, and that's very much a collaborative approach, working with customers across the neighbourhoods on numerous events. One such event will be the Community Fun Days that we'll launch and hold through July through to September, and that will be a variety of activities in the local neighbourhoods, reaching out to customers and families just to get together and just talk to us, start a conversation, moving away from a very traditional landlord-tenant approach and just having a conversation with colleagues from LHP and the customers to understand what your priorities are for your neighbourhoods, and indeed ultimately allowing us to co-design the place standard. So that will inform LHP where we need to invest, or not just financially invest, but also invest resources and time. Benefits, I think we see benefits for customers. We recognise that some of this you might have heard previously, some of this you might think we're already doing. It isn't new, we recognise that. But I think there's a piece around greater visibility, greater accountability, and building trust with customers, making sure that you're feeling heard, and we give you the avenues and opportunities to shout loud and let us hear your voice, and seeing real action. All too often, we've talked about things, then it's not really been delivered. But it's making sure that we've delivered what we say we're going to deliver. I just wanted to share 4 of our tenant satisfaction measures as well with customers this evening, just to give you a bit of an understanding of where across LHP customers feel we are in terms of our service delivery. So in terms of overall satisfaction with LHP services, just under 80% of customers are satisfied with those services. We recognise there's more to deliver, and we want to deliver a more targeted approach to our services. Just over 81% of customers are satisfied with recent repairs. We recognise there's areas around repairs that we need to improve on in terms of delay and the timeliness of getting out and completing those repairs. But what we are heartened to hear is once we do the repairs, you're generally satisfied with that. Complaints, 40% of customers are satisfied with our complaints handling. There's a direct correlation with some of the repairs and the challenges in that service, and we recognise that. And that's a key priority that we'll be talking about again in September, as Ceri mentioned. And just under 83% of customers are satisfied that the home's safe to live in. And again, that's not just the home. We recognise that's also the neighbourhood and environment. Again, that talks directly to the Neighbourhood Action Plans and the work that we want to continue to do during the course of this year. At that point, I'm going to pause and just hand over to Nick.
Thank you, Mark. So I'm going to talk you through some of the feedback that many of you gave us in answering a customer culture assessment earlier in the year. So we started in January and we wanted to understand both colleagues and customers' perceptions of what the existing culture is at LHP and how we might want to change that. So we held a consultation with 8 workshops where 58 customers came along in person and took part in that. Our customer forum was also part of the survey responses, and a total of 403 customers actually responded to the survey on Your Voice. So thank you very much to any of you that took part in that survey. So 70% of the customers that responded are customers who have been with LHP for more than 5 years. So that's quite interesting. That quite a lot of customers have been with us a long time and taken the time to respond. Some of the key findings in terms of satisfaction, so 61% of customers who responded felt that they were happy with their home, and 70% felt that they were likely to recommend LHP as a landlord. And that's quite high, both of those, in terms of comparison with other organisations. So pleasing to hear, but actually still gives us a lot of insight. And satisfaction definitely varied across our neighbourhoods. So we've looked at the results across neighbourhoods, and we're going to be taking that into account in our plans moving forward. So looking at some of the actual individual satisfaction results, so we asked a series of questions about different areas of our service. So customer service came up one of the highest, with 67% of customers feeling satisfied or highly satisfied with that service. Slightly lower for repairs and maintenance, and lower still for information, support and communications, and then also wellbeing and welfare support. They're definitely kind of in the middle of the ranges of levels of satisfaction. And quite low level satisfaction in relation to volunteering and work experience opportunities. So we're taking that feedback on board. I'm just thinking about one of the questions was, generally speaking, how happy or unhappy are you with the home that you live in? And there was a lot of positive comments added to the survey. So here's some of the summary. So in general, customers felt that they got reasonably good services and that colleagues were helpful and their neighbours were really friendly. They felt that we cater to people's needs. Customers like living where they're living and feel like they're part of a community. There was also customers comments about feeling safe and affordable rent. Another element of the survey asked customers about how they want to feel and experience, so to inform kind of the culture that we want as an organisation. So there was a lot of comments here about feeling respect and having fairness and being listened to, having empathy with you, knowing who to contact, and that I think that's come through, quite a few of these have come through in the questions today, that we need to be much better at communicating. And then some comments about feeling safe, warm and living in well-repaired homes. So some of the more negative comments about where we can improve the customer experience, there was a lot of really rich information in there for us. But these are the kind of the key themes that came through. So loud and clear that actually want us to have much more efficient repair service, want us to improve communication and transparency, so give a lot more information to customers. quite a lot about customer engagement and us having greater accountability to customers. So things like wanting to see neighbourhood officers much more in the communities, which aligns to the neighbourhood action plans that Mark was talking about, and some comments about needing to improve safety and security. So what? So why did we ask you? What are we doing with that feedback? We've been using that feedback to think about our priorities going forward. We've also combined it with feedback that we've had from elsewhere, from ourselves, from the regulator. And these are the 4 areas that we're prioritising on over the next 2 years. So you won't be surprised to hear that really good repairs is absolutely in there. So we definitely want to improve the efficiency of our repair service so it meets your needs. We've also got cracking data, so that's about us have much better data available to understand your needs and be able to respond to them. Real customer influence, so that's about giving customers much more say in what we do and having more opportunities for you to get involved. And then also the culture plan, so that's making sure that we're being better together and working on the results from the culture survey. I'm just passing back to Mark for a moment.
Thanks, Nick. So how can you get involved? Well, we've a number of opportunities currently available. You can share your suggestions on our online platform, Your Voice. You're more than welcome to attend our local walkabouts across the neighbourhoods, and we publish those dates. Share your views, share your perspective, first-hand accounts of what it looks and feels like in your neighbourhood with our colleagues. You can attend our customer virtual meetings as you are doing this evening, and hopefully going forward. Complete satisfaction surveys as and when we reach out to yourselves for receipt of a service, whether it's a repair service or ASB or anything like that. And you can join in the customer forums, and there's a number of those, be it our complaints panel forum, our scrutiny panel, or also our procurement and recruitment panel. But Nick's just going to update on new opportunities that are available coming soon.
Yeah, so one of our priorities, I mentioned about real customer influence, and we've got a lot of ideas based on your feedback in terms of how we can give more opportunities to you. So here's 3 that we're currently working on, and we would love some volunteers from customers to help us actually co-design what would work well in these spaces. So neighbourhood champions, this is customers in our communities helping us to work with neighbourhood action plans. Community listening events. So this is us trying to have much more time in the communities with you, listening to the things that matter to you. And then the third is a panel of hopefully customers that's going to help us actually look at our services and identify improvements and really work with us to design those. So if you're interested in volunteering and helping us work out what we need in those 3 spaces and how to get more customers involved, then please do let us know.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate that. I guess we're now getting on to the bit that a lot of customers have dialed in for, which is to have your questions heard by us and answered. So we have taken anything personal out. Although everybody will get a response by the 30th of May, anything specific to your property we've taken out of today's questions, but we will respond to you, as I say. Equally, as I said earlier on, anything that's largely repairs related in terms of those themes, we're going to cover those off in our next virtual town hall, which will be during September. So Sam, if you can click it up and we'll get the next question. Right, so the first one is, when will my windows and doors be replaced? There were some common questions really around component replacements, but we know this is something that a lot of customers ask. We've got a 30-year program that sets out when various bits of our home get replaced, so your kitchens, your bathrooms, your windows, and you can check when your home is scheduled by contacting our customer service team. We're also working on displaying this information to you via our LHP app if we can. However, it's important to note that even the most detailed planning can't account for daily life, and our dates are forecast and may be subject to change. So I think we need to improve how we communicate that and how we're moving things around. But in the first instance, contact customer services and they'll be able to support you with that. The next question is from Judith. We've got, our property has outbuildings which are part of the property and LHP have repaired, but unfortunately they no longer paint the doors which is a shame as we maintain the property to a high standard, but we now have paint these ourselves. If we want to make them look as good as the rest of the property, which is an additional cost to us as tenants. Are there any plans to paint these doors in the future like they used to be? So the response from our assets team is really around, as part of our external improvement programme, all outbuildings doors will be upgraded to GRP, which is essentially a plastic mechanism that doesn't require decoration, so should be maintenance free. A member of the property team will contact you, Judith, to confirm the planned year for our external improvement programme and to reach out in your area. So our next question is from Anita. Mark, do you want to take this one?
Yes, thank you for your question. Well, there's a number there, so I appreciate I'll go through those. When will LHP fix fences in the Immingham estate area? We're working in the more broader sense, not just the fencing replacement programme, but how that fits in with the Neighbourhood Action Plans. So that will come forward as part of our consultation on the Neighbourhood Action Plans. What can we do with fly tipping? Maybe support from the council with CCTV. Absolutely. We're working very, very strongly in partnership with North East Lincolnshire Council through our Neighbourhood Action Plans again to tackle fly tipping in the Immingham and wider areas. This includes joint work on education around waste disposal, increasing awareness around residents, not just their own customers, and identifying other ways to prevent it. As part of those considerations, we're also looking at whether we will jointly install CCTV in certain hotspot areas to try and sort of either deter the culprits or actually take action against them. And the third question, why are there a lot of empty homes? Yeah, it's never great to see empty homes in the neighbourhoods, and it's something that we're working really quickly around developing an empty homes plan to move forward and re-letting those properties as quickly as we can once they're repaired. We work with a Homes Choice lettings so that we bring the allocations through as quickly as we can once those voids are repaired. But it's one of the priorities for the organisation this year to reduce the number of empty homes that we currently have. Oh yeah, okay, sorry. Next question: Why does it take so long for LHP to reply to tenants when they've asked for somebody to call them back? We never get back to tenants. Well, there's a number of this. We have 5 channels in terms of contacting the organisation for customers to use, and our response time is 2-day response time. What we do recognise though is we'd much prefer, as Nick touched on, to have greater visibility in the neighbourhoods that we work within, so that actually customers can see us out and about and speak to us, and goes back to having those conversations. So again, there's another. We'll formally respond to this by the 30th of May, but there's certainly areas that we need to improve in terms of our communications back to customers.
So I'm going to take the next question. Do you provide training and ongoing development for colleagues to support respectful, equal and person-centred interactions with customers so that customers feel they're treated with respect as individuals with equal voice and value? So thank you for raising this really important point. At LHP, we've been listening closely to what our customers are telling us, especially through the recent culture assessment, which I talked about earlier, and many of you contribute to. So thinking about the key messages that came through from that culture assessment, there's lots about being treated with respect, empathy and as equals, and that's really important to you. So one of our priorities for the next 2 years, I mentioned earlier, is focused culture change. As part of this, we're refreshing our organisational values to make sure they reflect the kind of culture that we want to build. These values are shaped by our colleagues, so shaped from the bottom up, and our colleagues really care about our work and the organisation. They want it to do better. We're also reviewing our colleague development programme aligned with that culture assessment to make sure it supports person-centred, respectful ways of working. And that's not just in theory, it's about how we show up every day. This includes looking at how we build empathy, listening and skills, and having equity in our work. We've also developed an EDI working group, and they're really looking at the development that we need as an organisation, underpinned by the understanding of the diversity of our customers. So thank you very much for every customer that's given us that information over the last year. We're going to be using that to make sure that we are having a development programme that meets your needs. The next question, I'm new to the area. My bungalow is covered with solar panels. As I'm the tenant, am I being rewarded by lower electricity bills, or are LHP being rewarded? So LHP doesn't receive any benefit from any of our existing solar panel systems. The systems installed over the last 3 years are owned by LHP, but the customer is receiving the full benefit on those systems. For any of the legacy systems installed by Boston Mayflower, these are owned by a third party, and so any electricity not used by the customer is sold back to the grid for the benefit of the third party. The next question. For those customers who live in multi-storey complexes or dwellings without driveways, will LHP be doing anything to assist in the electrification process, possibly with the help of private sponsorship or local government support? Those customers, especially on Motability, are being strongly persuaded into electric vehicles. Support is needed to help facilitate the ability to charge at or nearby your home. So we do not currently have any plans to install EV charging points within our homes. However, we do acknowledge that with the increased uptake in electric vehicles, this is something that will need to be considered in our long-term investment planning. I'm now passing to Ceri.
Thanks, Nick. So next question is from Nicola. You've not written in, have you, Nicola? Right, okay. So why are repairs still outstanding from nearly 2 years? That's totally unacceptable. There's no way that you should be waiting that long for a repair. So please reach out. If that is the case and you believe that that repair has slipped through our system, please contact our customer call centre and we'll be in a position where we'll relog that repair and prioritise that. Nicola will be reaching out to you individually to make sure that any repairs within the customer offer that we need to do, we'll get those done for you. So the next question is from Gary and Joanne. So why has nothing happened to the land where flats are situated in Immingham? And are there plans to do something constructive moving forward? And does the LHP have plans for housing in Immingham? High-rise flats were demolished a number of years ago and sites are still left empty and unsightly. So those two questions. So we've done a full assessment of all of our land across the entire region. And over the next 12 months, we're going to be drawing up plans to which of those we are going to look to utilise for development, which of those are not something that we want to do, and look at whether or not we can work with community and other partners to get better use out of those lands. Specifically, insofar as Immingham, we've got no current plans on any of our existing sites to do anything specific, but those plans will be developed over the next 12 months. Those people in Immingham will have seen a significant impact as a result of the retrofit works that we've been carried out, and that's been largely the focus of our investment on those existing homes to make those more energy efficient for customers. So I think that's pretty much the end of the questions or time that we've been able to take. I suspect there's quite a number of questions that we've not been able to get to today. As I said earlier on, we will make sure that by the 30th of May, everyone is contacted that's raised a question and we'll work through those issues. I think the session for repairs in September is clearly going to have a much greater focus on those areas. And I think what we might look to do is do less of a presentation about what we're trying to do and really focus on answering your questions, because it's important that we really hear the voice of you as our customer. I just want to re-emphasize those comments earlier on by Mark and Nicola about getting engaged in really shaping what we do as LHP. So please reach out if you actively want to be involved in shaping what we do, how we do that, and canvassing that support from people around you in your communities to make sure we hear your voice. Please do get in touch. So thank you for everyone that's joined us tonight. Hopefully this recording will be online for you to view shortly. Thank you again and have a good evening.